So we'll begin with chapter 10, verse 24. I know I covered it last week. It kind of is a part of the previous verses also, and it's kind of a part of the following verses also. So I have to do it twice. Okay. Chapter 10, verse 24. Adhyasam ningiyalennum swarupa sthitiyanadil Drishyavum Vastavam Vyaktamayidum. If all possibility of superimposition is thus removed, one comes to one's natural state, in which it is realized that the entire objective world is also nothing other than consciousness. So what did we see earlier? That freedom is my inherent quality, my nature. And that characteristic of freedom belongs to Atma. It does not belong to the body. It's just wrongly superimposed on the body, and that is why I start feeling first I am the body, and then I, this body, mind person, wants to be free of bondage with respect to relationships, with respect to money, with respect to the world, etc. But it's all misdirected. In reality, freedom is my inherent quality, and I am that Atma. So now, going forward, the Jnani starts seeing this clearly and places the characteristic in its correct domain. Belongs to the Atma, not to the body. Let me not get so feverish about this particular worldly aspect that has arisen and seems to bind me. So the weeding out that I say is very important. Now you start doing it naturally, not forcefully, not because of some greed for material attainment, but because you see the truth that it does not belong here, it belongs to the Atma. That is the meaning of the complete blossoming of Viveka. Yeah. Earlier, it was I'm trying to understand Viveka, and I'm still attached to the world, and I see I'm the Atma, and I keep shuttling. All that happens. But a point comes where the Viveka has fully blossomed, and now nothing can confuse me. Even if I choose to fool myself, no, this relationship is binding me. He should not be like this. She should not be like this. Blah, blah, blah. Even if I do that, something within me clearly knows that this wanting to be free belongs to the Atma, not to this body. Yeah? And it becomes very clear that this body got into a relationship with this person or a friendship with this person. The nature of the body connection is relationship, connection, bondage. The nature of Atma is free. Huh? They are contradictory, and always the conflict is between these two. It's got nothing to do with the poor guy or the poor woman in the world. They have not bound me. So this clarity is there. From within, the inner guru always reminds me now. This is the meaning of Viveka fully blossomed. When Viveka is fully blossomed, all possibility of superimposition is removed. That's the first line of this verse. When Viveka is not fully blossomed, there is no possibility of all superimposition to be removed. Now, some superimposition is going to be there because of my attachment in the world. Okay? As this builds, you start seeing this was not just for freedom, it is for happiness. Happiness is the inherent quality of Atma. Yeah? And the quality of the body is to want variety. It wants attraction, repulsion, fear, sorrow, restlessness. It wants the whole masala movie. And the Atma wants only its own nature of happiness. There lies the conflict. There lies the conflict. So this maturity starts happening. So amidst that whole attraction, repulsion, drama that is going on in the body-mind world, in that there is the recognition of true happiness already being the background. With it, the world doesn't need to be abandoned for this happiness to be seen. It's like suddenly, while watching the movie, a moment ago, I was involved in the hero, heroine, and the whole story, and suddenly my attention went to the blank screen beyond on which the pictures are moving. That is the complete blossoming of Viveka. Amidst the drama, the story is still going on. The chaos is still going on. Yes, suddenly the attention has shifted. That is the removal of all superimposition that comes from the complete blossoming of Viveka. Is that clear? Yeah? So then it becomes very clear: love, happiness, peace, courage, freedom, truthfulness, sense of existence, knowledge, all this belongs at the Atma level. And body just wants masala. And masala comes from passivity, activity, laziness and passionfulness, truthfulness, untruthfulness, dependence, independence. It wants both opposites in this masala. Yeah. So when this recognition happens, then it's like, oh, now you cannot fool me. I know you are the story playing on the screen, and I am the screen. Now there is no confusion. Yeah. So that is what is the second line. It is realized that the entire objective world is also nothing other than consciousness. So if I am the screen on which all these pictures are playing, these pictures are also part of that screen only. They cannot play or exist of their own accord without the screen. So they arise in consciousness, they play in consciousness, and they have to dissolve and disappear in consciousness. Without the screen, there is no picture. There is no story, no masala, no attraction, repulsion, fear, sorrow, restlessness, dependence, nothing. No masala at all. Yeah, so now, the moment I see this, I have assigned them to the correct domains. The moment I see this, now there is this clarity. You cannot fool me. I cannot be fooled anymore. Yeah, so what got me here? A proper inquiry. Proper inquiry helped remove the false assumptions. And I came back to my natural state. I recognized I am the white screen on which these are appearing, disappearing. The white screen is not suddenly produced, It's just that my attention was captured by the story and the characters before, so I could not recognize the white screen behind. It was always there. But now suddenly my attention has gone beyond. So recognize this. Natural state is not newly produced. Natural state was there. I was ignoring it. That is called ignorance. Yeah. So this week's homework should be that whenever this body-mind gets trapped in the worldly friend, worldly parent, worldly son or daughter, worldly work, money, name, fame, relationships, amidst that chaos, you have to recognize the self-shining presence of consciousness. Not in retrospect, not when everything is calm and you've come back home and then you say, and that story was playing on the consciousness screen. No, was nahi. We're not talking about was. Is now. Yeah, that's how I know, that's my natural state. I am there. Not I was there. Last Sunday I was there. No. You're creating another spiritual story. No. Here and now, I can recognize the self-shining presence of consciousness. Do you recognize right now the mind is at peace, everything is quiet. We are listening to this wisdom. It's easy to recognize that. Now I'm giving you the homework that it should be recognized in chaos, in drama, where all that attraction, repulsion of the body is playing. It's at its peak. That time I have to recognize what is my natural state. Okay? If it's not happening, maybe a little more closed-eyed samadhi is in order. If it starts happening, even a little bit in spurts here and there, great. I have the ability, the potentiality to get there. Okay. So now when superimposition is fully removed, it is realized not only I am consciousness, everything is consciousness. Not only is the seer consciousness, the seen is also consciousness. Yeah? The seeing is also consciousness. So the objective world is also consciousness. Means that the world cannot stand independent by itself without the consciousness. Just like the characters, the hero, heroine and the story that is playing on the screen, they cannot play separately from the background white screen. Just like that. You know, whatever drama is going on here, amidst that drama I recognize that this person, this situation, this money, house, name, fame, etc., all this is dependent on me, the consciousness, and it cannot be separated out. Yeah? This is the last point where Niti has ended. Yeah? They are one. Yeah? It's not that suddenly the world has become attached to the consciousness. It always was. Yeah? The world never existed independent of the consciousness. It was never independently existing apart from consciousness. But I refused to see it earlier. Now I see. Yeah, that shift needs to happen. Then you can go to verse 25. Ithatavam vendapul-drishya parishodana chegilum Vyaktamāmadinal-nūnam Vyamohakshadiyum varum. This latter truth can be realized too by a strict analysis of the objective world itself. This one we've done in Atmanirvriti, if you remember. Yes? So in Atmadarshan, he doesn't go too much in detail. It's just one line telling you to refer to what we did in Atmanirvriti. So quickly in 2 minutes, I'll revise what we had done. If you remember, I'd given you an exercise, go for a walk, look at the tree. A form of that tree is not apart from seeing. And seeing is not apart from knowing. And knowing is not apart from consciousness. Not possible. Consciousness or awareness. Similarly, I told you there will be birds and all. Listen to the sound, pay attention. Then sound is not known apart from hearing. And hearing is not apart from knowing, if you remember that also. And knowing is not apart from consciousness or awareness. Similarly, a thought. I told you after you finish sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. I'm not doing all of those. A thought is known. And you recognize it is not separate from knowing. And then you go one level deeper, that this thought, thinking, thinker, all this is the consciousness itself, the awareness itself. Yeah? So thought is not apart from thinking, and thinking is not apart from knowing. Knowing is not apart from consciousness or awareness. Become very clear, there is no possibility of separating out this world from consciousness. It is one. Yeah? Just labels put on an abstract picture. If you remember in Atmanirvriti, we looked at an abstract picture of abstract colors and forms that are not recognizable, and somebody says, oh, that is a lady's face, oh, that is a tiger there, oh, that is the moon, and the painter will say, I just threw water on a canvas, where are these forms? Yeah, so name and form is just a label on nothing but color. It is all color. Like that only, it is all consciousness. There is no real name and form, there are just labels. Similarly, sensation. This was something that we covered. It's thought, feeling, and sensation also. So thought or sensation or feeling is not known apart from consciousness. Yeah. Feeling and feeler is one and the same. Feeler and knowing is the same. Knowing is not apart from consciousness. Similarly, sensation and sensor is one and the same. Yeah. Sensor is not apart from knowingness. And knowingness is not apart from consciousness. So all of them, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, thought, feeling, sensation, can never be found outside consciousness. They're all playing here, right here. They're labels. Yeah, so the object is never found outside consciousness. That is the analysis of the objective world we had done in Atmanirvriti. Yeah, we had concluded that this objective world is just appearances. Yeah? It's a collection of known appearances, and every appearance is inseparable from knowing. There is nothing that I can separate out. Yeah? And the world is not merely appearing to consciousness, it is appearing in consciousness. It is appearing as consciousness. So when this becomes very clear, there is no more confusion left. No more confusion left. Yeah, that's what the next verse says. Verse 26. Bodhatil ninnu vervittu drishyam nikkil loriculam pridak satte adinilladu Adinalladu Bodhamam. Objects of consciousness can never be separated from consciousness itself. They have no independent existence. They are therefore nothing other than consciousness. Yeah. So we came automatically to this conclusion that the objects cannot be separated out. We can do it as an inquiry right now. Look at any form that is in front of you, any object sitting in front of you. Ask yourself, where is this object known? To be seen, it is known in awareness. By whom is it known? By awareness. Yeah. Can I separate the object from awareness? Can you try to separate it out? No. Can I find the object apart from perception, sensation, thought, feeling? No. Or knowingness? No. Then what is actually present there? Can you call it an object? This consciousness appearing as an object. Consciousness appearing as an object. For example, you go to a desert and you see the mirage. And you go closer, it's not there. So what was it? It was light that was appearing as water. Okay? Like that only. Here, whatever you're seeing, the object in front of you is consciousness appearing as an object. So the object that you are looking at in front of you, it has borrowed reality. Yeah? And borrowed from whom? From consciousness. Only consciousness has its own intrinsic reality, which can be lent out. And only so much can be given. So this body borrows it for 16 hours, max 18 hours, and after that, battery down. The mind also, a little more because it goes into the dream. So 18 hours and then battery down. So the intrinsic quality of consciousness can be loaned, but only so much can be loaned. Like that, only that object that you are looking at right now has borrowed its reality, and it's only so much that it can play, dance, do whatever its appearance in front of you. At the end of waking, what happens to this object? Disappears. The object is only an appearance. Consciousness is appearing as an object right now. This starts opening up as your viveka blossoms. Then you start applying it. The most important part is application. The wife is only an object that is appearing in consciousness. The husband is only an object that is appearing in consciousness. The father, the mother, the sibling, son, daughter, only objects that are appearing in consciousness. They are made up of consciousness and they disappear also at the end of the waking consciousness. Dream consciousness has another parent, another spouse, another, just a mental idea of them. You can't even see them clearly, not just blurred pictures, blurred ideas of them. So the dream consciousness is not operating here. Only the waking consciousness is operating here. So it is the waking consciousness appearing as an object. Become very clear. One level deeper we went. It's not the dream consciousness appearing as an object right now. But when a dream appears and there is a dream world and running away from the tiger in the dream world, then it is the dream consciousness appearing as the whole running away from the tiger story. Dream consciousness appearing as an object. That also ends very quickly. We come to the deep sleep. Deep sleep consciousness appears as the nothingness thought, absence thought, tamo vritti. Very important to understand. So all these are only names and forms. In the waking consciousness, maybe you looked at the computer, you looked at the book, you looked at the pen. And these objects, these were only names and forms that were labels applied on the waking consciousness screen. The story of running away from the tiger and the fear and the panting, the sweating, the roar of the tiger, all that is name and form that is labeled on the screen of dream consciousness. And nothingness is the label on the screen of deep sleep consciousness. Everything starts opening up. Consciousness is only appearing as an object. The object has only borrowed reality for a little bit. This is not going to last. This is not going to last. That's how you overcome dukkha. You see that? Otherwise you feel, oh, this is forever. I have always been in pain. I have always been hurting. This relationship has always been messed up. Always. There is no always only. It's just an appearance. It lasts only so much time. It's only the body connection that starts creating attraction, repulsion, fear, sorrow, blah, 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 blah. And then the moment you put the correct characteristics in the correct domain, it becomes very clear. It's only part of the story. Nothing to be taken seriously. Most important thing is to recognize consciousness is appearing as the object. So today's homework, second homework, whenever something happens, interaction with the family, consciousness is appearing as the son, as the daughter, as the sister, as the brother, as the parent, spouse. Yeah, something happens on your financial portfolio, consciousness is appearing as money or loss of money here. Yeah, consciousness is appearing as this problem with the neighbor. Whatever situation arises, consciousness is appearing as this new job or the loss of a job, a good boss or good colleague or no colleague. Consciousness appearing as lot of work, consciousness appearing as absolutely no work. Consciousness is appearing as the object. Most important to approach the truth from this angle. That brings us to the last verse, 10.27. Idrishtiyalum dehatma buddhi thire thigar nupom ella vyamohavum tirum kevalasthidi kaivarum. Approaching the truth in this manner will also remove the mistaken body consciousness identity and all delusion. One will then find oneself established as Atma, the one and only reality. So, very important. First, Viveka needs to blossom. When it matures, this recognition of this characteristic belongs here and this characteristic belongs here. That weeding out the illusion from reality is very important. Yeah. After this is done, then I recognize very clearly it's only consciousness appearing as this person, this object, this situation. Only when I approach the truth in this manner, I will be able to remove this mistaken body consciousness identity. Do you recognize this? What is body consciousness identity? I am this body. I am conscious. But if you really did the previous verse inquiry properly, you will say, no, the body appears in me, the consciousness. And the body is not the container of consciousness. Consciousness is the field in which the body appears, plays for a little while, and at the end of waking, it disappears. So the mistake is not that the body appeared and it cannot even be removed. The appearance is not the problem. The mistake is that consciousness forgot itself and identified itself with the body. And then said, I am this body. I am this limited form. That is body consciousness identity. So, question to ask yourself, do I still get stuck there? What is it that is lacking? What is it that has not matured? Can I figure that out? Is it that I'm trying that the body should not appear and disappear? Is my focus in the wrong place? No, the body is still going to continue to appear and disappear, even for the enlightened one. But the enlightened one never gets confused. He knows that he is the consciousness. Then why am I getting confused? Is my root mistake that I'm expecting that the body will stop appearing, the world will stop appearing, thoughts will stop appearing, sensations will stop appearing, feelings will stop appearing? No. All this picture is going to continue till the end comes on the screen. The story is going to continue. But midway between the story, my attention can move from the story to the screen on which the story is playing. What is the mistake that I'm still doing? Why has my false identity not gone yet? Okay. Work on yourself. Very important. I feel entire Atma Darshan is also not required. This chapter 10 itself was so long and so much in depth with superimposition. If you master this one chapter, you're done. You can get to enlightenment here only. You don't need to move to chapter 11. Those of us who see, no, I'm not there yet, will have to move to chapter 11. But this one long chapter had everything in it. It said it all. So, goal should be, am I established as Atma? Means, one, the body is no longer taken to be I. And two, the world is no longer taken to be separate from me, the consciousness. Yeah, very important. These two factors are very important. And I have to recognize Atma is not ego, Atma is not body, Atma is not mind, Atma is not the individual soul also. That individual soul, separate entity, no. Simply a background screen of nothingness, emptiness, light. This should not be a mental conclusion. So those who feel that I have not really moved away from my body or identity, maybe you were just doing it mentally. Maybe it is only analysis and only intellectualization that was going on till now. Maybe the actual seeing, diving deep into the truth and seeing it was not happening. It should be a settled recognition, not a mental analysis, not verbal. A recognition, a settled realization. And what is the realization? The highest part of that verse. That the world is not something else from the consciousness. That's the highest. Means there are no two. That's how you come to Advaitam. There are no two. Good. That's where chapter 10 ends, and you must do your homework. You must do a little bit of self-inquiry and see what is it that I am missing. Am I missing that the world does not have independent reality apart from consciousness? Am I missing that the body does not have independent reality from consciousness? Am I missing that the mind does not have independent reality from consciousness? What am I missing? Am I not able to accept that my son, my daughter, my parent have borrowed their seeming existence from me, the consciousness? Is that my attachment? Go to specifics. Please go deeper into specifics. Just as the dream world borrows its existence from the dream consciousness, you can see that, you accept that so easily. Like that only start applying to the waking. The waking world borrows existence from me, the consciousness. Clear? There is only Atma, only consciousness, only consciousness, only consciousness. Good? Okay. That completes chapter 10. Any questions? Any questions on the whole chapter? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, this recognition that you talked about, that no, I am not this body, I am not this mind, this world is not separate from me. This recognition is there, but like you said, it happens almost like an afterthought.
Yeah.
Right? Not in the heat of the moment. That is the one thing that it comes a little later, like just a little later, not when caught up in that.
Yes. It needs to be a sadhana continuously. That's when in the most dramatic moment also it will continue. Means my open-eyed sadhana was not strong enough. I only did it maybe in closed-eyed samadhi, and I did not carry it throughout my open-eyed. So attempt to take that closed-eyed samadhi into open-eyed, and throughout the day When things are just simple, normal, daily routine, that time continue to be there. Very clearly, this office project has borrowed its consciousness from me. Not me as in the body mind, me the consciousness. This boss has borrowed his consciousness from me. He cannot exist apart from me. If the colleague is messing with me, he or she cannot exist apart from me. If there is some office politics going on, the politics is not apart from me. Being able to see everything. When things are just normal daily routine. Same at home, you're just cooking, cleaning, mundane activity. The vacuum cleaner cannot exist apart from me, the consciousness. The cooking, the vessels, whether the vegetable turned out really tasty or it turned out completely ugh. This cannot really exist apart from me, the consciousness. In every little thing, mundane things, start seeing it. It is a sadhana. Now it will build, and suddenly when the sun comes in and the sun starts saying something that you didn't expect, and it's suddenly a dramatic situation, you will continue. It will percolate into that. The sun could not have a separate identity. I cannot separate him from me, the consciousness. It's only a story playing, and the story was meant to be like this. Then you don't take anything seriously. Forget somebody shouting, screaming, doing drama. You will not take disease of the body seriously. You will not take the news of death too seriously. It's a part of the story. Okay. Good. The end is coming. I'm happy. It's getting over. I'm done with this illusion. I was done long ago. Yeah, like that. It will start building to the worst kind of situations that the body connection was labeling as worst and best, but consciousness just sees it as a film story. Playing on the screen. This must be a practice. Yeah? Then only you will not lose your cool in the most difficult situation. You will not get caught up in the drama, whatever the drama. It doesn't matter, work or family or friends. You will not get caught up at all. That is the skill. Okay. Somebody else had a question?
Ektaji. So, I see 3 levels of projection of Ektaji. One is Shailaja may be watching a recorded video. The other would be a live session. And the third would be an in-person retreat. So I see experientially that in an in-person retreat, there is more absorption of the knowledge than a live session, and live there is more absorption than a recorded. So now I see that all are my projections. So it should be equal, but somehow it's not. Like the lamp is lighting another only when it's in person, the forms. And that's why when I cannot come, I'm missing out that thing. The story keeps repeating on and on that I'm missing out on an opportunity to advance spiritually. So what's the difference, even though I know all are my projections only?
Yeah, there is no difference really. That also, the maximum absorption happening in person and a little lesser than that happening on an online in person, and then even lesser happening in the video. This is also your projection. This quantity of absorption is also your projection. That is also part of your story. You have projected that. Yeah, I'll give you a little example. When I wanted to study the Buddha's path back in India, I was a youngster. I had no avenue other than grabbing the books from the library. And these books were so ancient, and they had only the few editions. They wouldn't let you check it out. So I had to sit in the library. So what was the projection of consciousness there? That this is the only guru I have. And that also I cannot take this guru home. I have to study from this guru here in this library. Yes, so that whole thing comes from within. It's the consciousness's own projection that this is all I got, and I got to take everything from this book. So I didn't have an ekta in my life like you have one. I had only the book. That's how the whole Buddha's knowledge I was explaining, because at that time also it was so conservative that Buddha's path was not really cherished much in India, if you know. Even today, it's not there where it should be, but at least now it's a little open and they embrace everything. But in those days, no, Buddha's path is not for everyone. You are at a higher level. They had those classes, you know about it, right? So that whole class system in India pushed that study somewhere at the back of the wardrobe, and I had to go and really pull out the study. So I didn't have this experience that you have. So I can very clearly say it is your own projection. The quantity I'm getting so much in a video and getting so much in a live session and so much in a retreat is also your projection. Part of your story. It might not be part of somebody else's story. So it is Shailaja specific story. Clear? Okay. Any other question?
The question is about samskara. So if there is no ignorance, then I see everything as consciousness. So it would be seen like an abstract, just waves of consciousness, no labeling. And then when I assume to be I, the labeling starts. And the labeling is based on samskaras. So where did these samskaras come from?
We did in, I think, previous Atmadarshan or 2 sessions ago that samskaras are collective. So it's the entire collective consciousness that itself has these samskaras. It itself is seeking from its own search. It creates ideas. Could I be this? Could I be that? Could I be that? Could I be that? Yes, and this coordinate of consciousness is closer to certain ideas and pulls those. Whereas that coordinate of consciousness is very far away from these ideas and finds them too alien to even pull those. It's like that. It's like we are coordinates of consciousness. We are not really individual body minds in a world. No. It's just this coordinate of consciousness. If you remember in Atmanirvritti, I explained it's like a peephole. Consciousness is looking through the peephole and experiencing a world story. Yeah? So it's that peephole specific samskar. Through that peephole, if the peephole has all orange color glass, the entire story will be orange. If it had red color glass, the entire story would be red. Do you see where I'm coming from? So it's just a coordinate of consciousness that finds a particular idea appealing and says, I am a Hindu, I am a Jew, I am a Muslim. And this is what I believe in, and this is right and this is wrong. There is God or there is no God, and this is the right belief and that is the wrong belief. This is my path, this is his path, her path. And all these things come from the coordinate of consciousness. Why? Because the consciousness suddenly has forgotten that it's beyond the people, beyond the binoculars. It has become one with the binoculars. It has become one with the orange glass, the red glass. It has become one with the story that it sees through the orange and the red. That is the issue. That is the issue. So now that you recognize that, oh, I can see so clearly, no, there is just this body mind and there is a story going on between this body mind and another body mind here. But I can so clearly see I am the awareness in which the story is happening. Now I don't get confused. It's part of the story. If there was supposed to be drama for 30 minutes, the drama will continue for 30 minutes. But I, the consciousness, do not need to be trapped for 30 minutes. I don't need to think that I am the body, mind person here that is engaged in this conversation for 30 minutes. I can stand at a distance and laugh at what goes on here. Yeah. Be happy, be merry. Nothing happens to me. Even if this body gets some disease, nothing, I don't fall sick. This body goes to the hospital, nothing happens to me. I am not in the hospital. That recognition, that is essential. Yeah? So now develop a professional attitude even towards your own spiritual path. Have in office you have a very professional attitude. You don't behave with your boss the way you behave with your family member back at home, correct? You have a professionalism there. Like that. Now professionalism here on the spiritual path means what? I am Atma. I am not going to behave like this body-mind person. Yeah, this is the way I behaved at home. No. Now professional attitude at a distance. Continuously at a distance. Doesn't matter how enamoring the story is and how much you love the person and the situation and object. No, not to get lost in this attachment. The attachment belongs to Ekta. I am not Ekta. That is professionalism. Yeah, being professional about your spiritual path. Yeah, never mixing the two. That is the meaning of putting the characteristics in the correct domain and then letting them stay there. Yeah, letting them stay there is the professionalism part. You don't start doing drama with your boss suddenly in office. No, I'll get fired. Yeah, that's not the wife or that's not the husband. And that's not the partner. No, that's a boss. Like that. Like that. You know how you're professional and really strict about it? Like that. So you have the quality. Yeah? What I'm telling you, you have this potential to separate them out and keep them separate. Only your perspective needs to change. So I'm just giving that example of being professional about it. Okay.
So these ideas were intrinsically present in consciousness. The idea of health, sickness, loss, all these, they never actually appeared at one point. They were forever present.
Correct. That is the meaning of a collective samskara. It's the plot of the story. Think about the director's mind. Yeah, he's only the writer, he's only the director. There is only one, no, your consciousness. Nobody separate. So he only has the whole plot in his mind. He only has the characters. This character is going to play this role. This character is going to play this role. To make the story all masala, I need to add spice here. I need to add tragedy here. I need to add comedy here. I need to add romance here. So all those samskaras are there. They are all in the director's mind before they even come onto paper. In olden days, they didn't even come on paper. Directly, he used to tell the hero, heroine, do this, and there, the first scene is shot. Correct? So, they used to not even come onto paper. From here, directly manifested. That's the way consciousness is. Directly from samskara, the arising is manifested. So, right now, Shailaja is asking me this question. This came from where? Ekta had no idea that such a question is going to come. Yeah, such a question just arose from the consciousness. The director's mind is throwing out directly the arising. And it's appearing. Yeah, this is impromptu stage where now Ekta has to answer that question. Maybe Ekta is already programmed, but I, the consciousness, do not know that. I really don't know what she's programmed to answer, what she's not programmed to answer. Sometimes I get surprised. Oh, what a wonderful answer. Yeah, because it's so impromptu. All this is happening impromptu to the arising that is appearing. So I gave you a current example. Now the same thing happens with you, with your family member. What is going to come out of his mouth or her mouth, you have no idea. The next few words, are they going to be, sweet and lovable, amicable, or are they going to be harsh, critical words? I don't know. Yeah? So constantly there is this impromptu performance happening on me, the consciousness screen. Yeah? I never know what this body mind person is going to respond to those words. How much ever I plan, no, I'm not going to react. From today, I am the holy person. I am not going to react. And you don't know, blah, 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 blah. Something came out. And you're astonished. How did that happen? That was also part of the script. Do you get this? These samskaras are programmed to work by themselves. When they continue to work by themselves and I become intelligent enough to see that they work by themselves, then it is my job to now stand on the side of my intelligence. I was a fool earlier, but I was a fool like a helpless child. Yeah? It is ignorance. You cannot say, oh, you 4-year-old, you don't have the brains, why did you cross the road? Just run across. No. You know that child is ignorant. And you accept that ignorance. Like that only. Earlier, when I didn't see this automatic programming of samskaras, I was ignorant like a child. But now that I have the intelligence to see, now I don't have any right to again go back there and say, oh, I'm again ignorant. No, you're not again ignorant. Now you're a fool. Now you're a fool. Yeah? Because you have seen it intelligently. This is key here. And that's why I say now become professional. Yeah.
So the samskaras, the whole sequence gets activated only when I assume to be I. Otherwise, there are no samskaras. Is it like that? The reason I'm asking, first you gave us the highest level of knowledge to try and begin with. I used to say, in first year, samskaras do not exist. The whole of first year you tried. Then it didn't work. You kept on slipping. Then you came down to explaining samskaras.
Yeah.
So when I do not assume to be I, and I'm seeing everything as Vijnana, then there are no samskaras. Is
Correct.
it like that?
Correct. Basically, samskaras is also a label, no, that I have given. It's nothing but consciousness appearing as object. And that object I go and label. This samskara, that samskara made me react like this. This samskara, I have always been behaving like this. Oh, my old samskaras. You create that whole story. All is name and form, no? Actually, it's only consciousness at play. And it doesn't matter what consciousness wants to play. I have no will there, no right there. I don't want to control it also. I'm simply myself at peace. This is also one meaning of happiness. My inherent qualities, happiness or peace, means I don't want to change what is appearing. It's appearing, it's disappearing. It's appearing, it's disappearing. It comes, it dances, disappears. Comes, it dances, disappears. Doesn't bother me. So the problem is not in the appearances. The problem is in the objection to the appearances. I saw some silly movie scene somebody showed me where some new lawyer, just fresh out of school and doesn't know anything else, keeps standing up, I object, I object, I object. Some comedy cartoon kind of thing. So I thought, this is what we keep doing. I object. I object to the parent behaving like this. I object to the son speaking like this. I object to the salary. I object. That's all you're continuously doing. Like a cartoon. You cannot control the story. You cannot control the salary amount that has come to you. You cannot control what the spouse is going to say. You cannot control whether this is your parent or not. I object. The parent is not changing by you objecting. Yeah. So every time you start getting into that drama, no, imagine yourself as a cartoon standing there and saying, I object. You'll quietly withdraw. Okay, I'm going to stop this silliness. The body-mind person might continue. That might be a part of the script. But now I'm standing at a distance and laughing at this body-mind person. You cannot fool me. Make this your mantra. You cannot fool me. Okay.
So when you said samskaras do not exist, you meant that we are seeing all those forms as consciousness only.
Yes, yes. Everything is consciousness. There are no names and forms really. Yeah, as a baby, you didn't see name and form. Attempt to go back there. This is forgotten. All I have to do is remember. It's not something that I have to manipulate and create or fabricate out of thin air. I was like that. I didn't know this is apple, this is bat, this is cat. I didn't know this is red, blue, yellow. Everything was just a beautiful appearance. And I enjoyed the beauty. That is my inherent nature. It is slapped on by conditioning. One conditioning after another. Nothing wrong with conditioning. It was required for that baby in the world to become the adult in that world. But I needed to use my intelligence that this is just for the growth of that body-mind person. I, the consciousness, do not grow. I, the consciousness, cannot even be really slapped on by conditioning. I have always been untouched. So it was only conditioning. This is samskara, this is this, this is that. If I had not learned ABCD, I would not know the spelling of samskara. Right? If I didn't know ka, kha, ga, I wouldn't know the spelling of samskara. So it's so simple. It's only name and form. The moment I start seeing this truth, okay, no, you cannot fool me. You cannot fool me. Make that your mantra. No, you cannot fool me. Right now, you're just trying to captivate me. You're just trying to captivate me. Okay. Good. One more.
In the self-exploration that was there, I do not belong. These 5 qualities were mentioned: love, truthfulness, peace, courage, and alertness. And they are my nature. They are not qualities because it's my nature.
Yes.
So I wanted to know, and you also said you in the future retreat, which Shailaja is not able to attend, you are going to teach Avaduta Upanishad, which is about an Avaduta. So I wanted to know, how does Ekta ji see these qualities?
These are again labels only, according to me. I just see pure consciousness. I don't see love separate from peace, separate from steadiness, separate from truthfulness. It's all one. It's all one. Consciousness is playing. It's playing with itself. And now I have no objection to it playing anymore. And me not objecting to its play is love itself. Me not objecting to it should be this way or should not be that way is truthfulness itself. Yeah? Me not objecting is peace itself. Yeah? Just being with what is. Okay, cool. This is the movie. Okay. This is the story. Good. And this is the film. Good. Whatever it is then. It's meant to be. It's only consciousness appearing as an object. So not to get lost in the appearances at all. And then these labels also don't make any sense. Peace, love, steadiness. All these wonderful words are required for the one who's confused. But that clarity does not need words because there were never words to begin with. As a baby, there were no words to begin with. That naturalness is there. It's only buried deep inside you, and for me it has come up. That is the only difference. All I'm telling you, what it is buried below, no, you remove all that. You're saying, no, first let it come up, then I'll remove the mud. I said, no, you have to remove the mud first, then this first sprout is going to be seen. Yeah, you're attached to the mud. And I don't know what that is, your attachment to the son, daughter, parent, spouse, money, name, fame, identity in society, whatever, popularity. All that is the mud. it will not go away. That's what I have to keep warning you. It never goes away. It's all there. You unearth something, the mud just shifts from one place to another, but it's there, no? It doesn't disappear. But that which was buried suddenly is unearthed. You can see it. It shines. That's all. That's the only difference. Yes, so that's the difference between a commoner who is stuck in the body connection and somebody like the Avadhuta that has already established as the Atma. The Avadhuta has unearthed that light which was buried under the mud. Now he doesn't give importance to the mud. The mud doesn't go away. It's on the side. It is still there. But he is now just attentive to the light. Okay? In simple words, on the screen, if there's hero, heroine, now you're not paying attention to the hero, heroine. You're paying attention to the screen continuously. Movie still goes on. Still goes on. Good. No more questions? So good job on chapter 10. See that you complete the journal entries, complete all the essays. Yes, everybody who's lagging behind, I want to receive the essays. Yeah. Please complete everything. We'll quickly move to chapter 11 now. See you soon. Bye-bye.